Welcome, one and all, to the December 9th edition of the Signals from Mars live stream. I am Victor, your host, and above me we have Ed. Nope, Ed is here. And we have Johan. How are you guys tonight?
Doing good, thanks. Good to see both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The
Johan, how are
same.
you?
Yeah, the same to me. Exciting night with two football games, so very happy.
Excellent. Johan, do you have snow?
Yes.
Do you have any wolves this year?
No, they shot the wolf just the other
Oh.
week.
They did. Okay.
Yeah, the same wolf. So yeah,
What was the story with the wolf? Was it eating other animals or attacking things, or
it
was
was.
just bothering people?
Now it was attacking sheep's, and they a little bit too much, and they shot him. So
Yeah. Okay. Same thing happens here. So there's a constant battle between farmers' rights and wolves' rights here.
Yes, yes. Same here. It's a little bit controversial. Wolves are popular
Right.
among, I guess, city people, but farmers, yeah, they don't like him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they shot him.
Okay. Ed, any snow in your neck of the woods in Kentucky? Does it usually snow where you are?
Well, here where I live, we're like right in the middle of the north and southern front.
Okay.
So the weather is really wild. You never know. It just depends on which way the wind blows. But yeah, we've had a little bit of snow, just a dusting one day. But yeah, the temperatures go up and down so bad that most people here live with a permanent headache. Good. One of the worst areas to live in if you for sinus troubles. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So now that we have forecasts and different things out of the way, let's talk some music here. So as always, there's a lot of things going on in hard rock and metal, and I posted a few things in Patreon that we're gonna talk about. And if you want to become a patron and join us for these types of discussions, you can do so for as little as $2 a month and propose questions, share, do all the cool stuff that we do here. I posted a bunch of episodes today to try to finally catch up with everything. So I posted the new wave of British heavy metal episode. Was cool putting that playlist together. Unfortunately, not every song was available, so I couldn't get got a fly in here. I couldn't get the Dumpy's Rusty Nuts, so I had to switch that song up. And then Brad had suggested something else. I'm trying to think. Actually, I have his list here. Where's this? No, that's all right. So where's this? Persian Risk. So Persian Risk isn't on streaming. A lot of these bands, it's unfortunate that you can't find a lot of the stuff online because they don't have streaming rights. A lot of these bands were smaller from the new wave of British heavy metal. So unless there was a reissue or something like that, we talked about it during the episode. How, for example, I didn't get to hear the Samson stuff until Lars Ulrich put out the 79 Revisited compilation. And then those Bruce Dickinson Samson albums came out in the States in the 90s. Before that, they were very difficult to find. And this is kind of the same. There's no rights for some of these bands, so you can't find them on Spotify or on Apple Music or stuff like that unless you have the CD. And there's plenty of stuff where I have the CD and it's not available online. So that's why Whenever I find something that a PR agent sends me that I actually like, I make sure to download it just in case, because you never know when some of these rights are up. But anyway, so I posted that. I posted the Metallica discussion that I did last week with Chris Aiken and Chris Inzak. And I also posted the interview with the guys from Cash is King, Dan Lorenzo, and Jason McMaster. So one of the things that I did get to talk to Chris and Chris about was Pantera, for example. And now we've seen footage already of what this iteration of the band is doing. Johan, did you get to check out any of the videos of Pantera live?
Yes, I saw one clip filmed from the side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what city it was, but let's check out. Doesn't matter. Sounded good, but Phil seemed a little, stiff, old, or I don't know. Perhaps that's natural. He didn't seem to be. What can I say? He was not on fire on that show, but he sounded good. All good, but all right, I guess. It's right. He's old now. I saw Phil perform at Roskilde Festival in his solo band, and he was terrible. He was drunk or high or both. And this time around at YouTube, he was better. And I have actually high hopes for Pantera at Sweden Rock next summer. Yeah. But it sounded good. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Ed, what do you think? You think they sounded good? Did you get to see some of the clips?
I did. I'm looking forward to sitting down and watching more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I saw some of the the Facebook clips being thrown around and was actually very impressed with. Of course, I'm immediately listening for how that guitar is going to sound, because Dimebag's sound and personality is just as different as Phil's is. Mm-hmm. Without him playing, it's not Pantera sound wise. Right. So, but it seemed like Zach was doing an awesome job. And it blows me away that the man can figure out all those songs and guitar solos that well in that short amount of time. That just shows you how much of a wizard he is on that instrument. And Charlie was sounding good, wasn't he? Pounding away on the double bass drums. And Phil, what I did hear sounded okay to me. I worry about that part probably the most because, again, his personality is in that music in a way that if he's not there, it's just not Pantera. And a lot of that is, the power of his vocals. Right. And as he's getting older, I imagine he's not going to have that same strength and same power. So I was concerned about what he would sound like too. But overall, it sounded good. I've even seen some people throw up clips that seem to be the entire concert. I might throw that on this weekend, and if it sounds somewhat decent, might watch that. Have some further comments later.
Yeah, there was. I started to listen to, and I actually joked around with the hosts about this. I started listening to Talk to Me today with Chris Aiken, who was on last weekend with Joshua Toomey on notfest.com, by the way, guys. Anyway, I was saying how other presenters talk up their friends, or I know so and so or whatever. So I was joking with them kind of this week, saying, "Oh, I'm gonna say I'm gonna joke around that I'm good friends with the guys over at Knotfest." Anyway, So they were talking about the fact Chris Aiken has said that he's seen Pantera. I think he said 30 times live at least. And he mentioned that for anyone that gets overly nitpicky with whether Zach plays all the notes perfectly or stuff like that, that Dime was more about attitude more than perfection in his playing, and that they never played the songs exactly the same as the albums. Um, and they talked about the fact that it was cool to hear Zach paying tribute, but not trying to be note for note the same. Whereas he was very close, but it was still him playing. So you could tell, he's throwing in his pitch harmonics and different things where he felt they should go. I was reading an article that Charlie said that it took him 2 months to prepare for this, in just playing the songs every day to make sure that he got as many nuances as possible in there, and to try to get as close to Vinny's playing as possible. If they keep things as is and they're only doing these festival dates and they're only doing one Metallica date a week, which are all the tour dates that we've seen so far, I think that if they keep it that way, they're smart because it'll ensure that Phil's voice will be there. If they start doing 3-4 shows a week, forget it. It's going to be impossible because he's the biggest question mark out of all of them. Whether his voice can keep up or not. And they were playing songs that they hadn't played on Pantera tours because his voice just couldn't do justice to some of these songs. So they've brought some like classic songs back into the set list as well. So I think, the videos look good. I don't consider myself a huge Pantera fan. I like Pantera, but I'm not, like you, Ed, where it's one of my all-time favorite bands. But I was watching these videos and I was getting pumped up. I was getting really, really psyched up watching the videos. And I instantly, when I finished, I started listening to my Pantera playlist. And I'm like, shit, this song's missing. This other song's missing. I got to go back and I got to include these, these different songs. I can't believe that I didn't include this one. So, so this past weekend, I did listen to some Pantera as a result of checking these videos out. So I think it looks cool, and as some people have said already, if you don't want to see it, don't go see it.
Yeah.
Don't ruin it for the people that want to see it, that want to relive these songs. I mean, obviously, Ed, you've seen them live, and Johan, you've seen Phil solo. Did you ever get to see Pantera, the actual band, Johan?
Oh yeah, I saw them opening up for Priest at Cowboys, Priest Painkiller tour, and that was the Cowboys from Hell tour, and then I saw them opening up for Megadeth for Countdown to Extinction tour. So it was the Vulgar Display of Power tour, and then I saw them on the next tour as well. So I've seen them 3 times as Pantera original.
Right. Okay, but so, for example, to go into a show like this, I think that people are naive or ignorant to think that they're going to be as good as they were in 92, 93, because it's 30 years later. There's all this other stuff that's happened, whether it's alcohol or drugs or things like that, which help deteriorate, especially someone's voice quicker. Also the fact that it's not the same 4 guys. So they're, trying to keep they're trying to keep this music alive. They're trying to bring it to a new generation. They're trying to bring it to people that have missed the band. And by all accounts, I mean, Charlie's got the Abbott brothers on his bass drums. They've got, they do a segment during the show where they show Nothing But Diamond Vinny videos for like 5 minutes. So they're trying to pay tribute to not only the music, but to the brothers who were such an integral part. And I don't think that anyone has come out and said, yes, they've talked about reunion, but I don't know if that's so much a marketing ploy as it's been the band actually saying, oh, no, this is a reunion, more as the band actually just trying to pay tribute to, their fallen bandmates, and trying to keep their own music alive. I mean, if they don't keep it alive, obviously there are people that cover some of their stuff, but it's not the same as having, the voice, the to having, the attitude, certain things, the all the accoutrements that they had on stage. So I can't complain about anything that I've seen.
Yeah, and another thing too that is super cool and gives a lot of validity to this, which, and I agree, it's a tribute, is them pulling out Dime's equipment.
Right.
When I heard that clip, I immediately felt like Dime was with us on that stage, because you could hear that tone of his amps.
Right.
And yeah, that kind of gave me chills, really, to hear that. And it's so cool that they're bringing that out for maybe a lot of people who haven't heard or seen that, to see that rig and hear what that rig sounds like.
Right. It's funny because people have criticized Zach for not using Dime's Dean guitars. But on the flip side, Zach's got his own guitar company.
Yeah, that's not going to make as much a difference as the amps.
Right. What amps? What rig is it? Is it his old Laney amps? Is it the Crunch amps? What is he using? Or Randall? I said Laney. They were Randall.
Yeah, I couldn't see, but I was guessing it was probably Randall.
Okay.
The other amps that he started to use were kind of at the end of his career.
Yeah.
So he hadn't spent a whole lot of time with those. So I imagine they're pulling out the Randalls. To my ears, it sounded like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I could be wrong because my eyes couldn't see it.
Okay. I'm sure as time goes by, we'll start to find out more about exactly what they're doing. What equipment they're using and all that good stuff.
Is Charlie using his own drums?
Here's the thing. Charlie is someone who is constantly evolving his drum set. And he's playing a set that's closer to what Vinny played. I have to take a look at the exact setup. But like I said, Charlie on every tour modifies his cymbals, modifies sometimes what size toms he has on the side. I think he's only playing with 2 toms on top, where with Anthrax he plays with 3. I could be wrong. But again, I was enjoying the videos so much that I wasn't really getting into all the, nitpicking into all the different things. I was sneaking it was, I think, last Saturday morning, I threw my headphones on while I was still in bed watching it on my phone. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. So yeah, I really didn't get a chance to check that out, but I will once all that comes out. So, last week we did get to talk about a ton of Metallica. We've already sat a little more with Lux Aetera. Based on that first single, what kind of a sensation does it give you for 72 seasons? Does it make you look forward to the album? Or does it scare you that maybe the rest of the album doesn't live up to that song? Johan, what do you think?
To be honest, I don't have any high hopes, but I have higher hopes this time than I had for the last couple of albums. So, as we had discussion on our messenger thread, but this single is really good,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit different than what they have released earlier in many years. So I guess I have higher hopes, and
Okay.
it seems like they are going back to perhaps their own roots. We can
Mhm.
hope, at least I hope, for some more kind of a old school, because I mean, in my opinion, at the concerts, there are not much younger kids, even though my
Right.
son wants to go see Metallica, but uh, Metallica's fans are, as Rolling Stones fans are, we are old.
Right.
And I think that we would all appreciate an perhaps kind of a retro record that's more speaks to us than
Mhm.
than they are trying to uh, break the barriers in front. I don't think they do
Right.
that anymore, but like Saint Anger, they wanted to do something, uh, and that's, in my opinion, didn't happen. So you know what I mean? It's
Yeah. I
yeah, yeah,
understand
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. You look at something like Lulu, for example, where they were directly trying to target an indie rock fan base. They were trying to go after the critics, which had never fallen in love with them. And much like Ed has pointed out, which I think probably helps what you're saying, Johan, is that the sound too, the sound of the song sonically sounds like Garage Days, sounds like something that's, late 80s, which grabbed us at a certain point in time and really, hooked us. And I can honestly say the first thing that I listened to by Metallica willingly, because for the longest time I didn't want to listen to Metallica, was Garage Days. And my my late ex-girlfriend had the cassette shoved in her closet. And I'm like, fuck, all right, I'll give it a chance. I've got the cassette. I listened to it. And from the first drum beat of Helpless coming in, I'm like, oh shit, this is good. You know, and as I'm saying this, I'm getting, goosebumps on my arm. But I've listened to Garage Days so much. When they reissued it a few years back, I instantly bought it on vinyl
Mm.
and CD because I was like, I need to listen to this in the car. I want to have the vinyl at home. Um, so that CD has been floating around our car for the last few years since they reissued that. Ed, you spoke about sonically how much it hooked you right away. What do you feel? Do you think based on this song that it can only get better, or do you think we've reached the glass ceiling with this song?
No, I think they're doing a good job, and I'm looking forward to what they have to release. What before I heard the song, as usual, I kept hearing "Kill 'Em All, Kill 'Em All." It sounds like "Kill 'Em All."
Right.
It's kind of like when Megadeth is about to release a new record. It's "Peace Sells." It sounds like "Peace Sells" again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody says that, and then it never does.
Right.
When I listened to the song, before I listened to the song too, I kept hearing people not just say "Kill 'Em All," but it sounds like Whiplash.
Uh-huh.
So I listened to it, and I'm like, I'm not getting any of that from this song. Now later on, I did realize I was hearing riffs from "Hit the Lights" in
Right.
this song. Jeremy brought that up last week in the chat on your show.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing some of the sounds from "Hit the Lights," not Whiplash.
Right.
Unless there's something going on in the drums that people are hearing that I'm not. That's more Whiplash. But people were saying that about Hardwired, the song Hardwired too.
Right.
I think that's more Whiplash-like probably than this song. But yeah, this song, it's good.
Mhm.
Of course, I give everything the car test. I've got the 12-inch speakers in the back.
Right.
And that's where I really felt like, man, this sounds like Garage Days. especially because there's a part in that song that sounds like the part of the Merciful Fate cover on Garage Days. It's just like a little 2-second part of a riff that, if you weren't paying attention to what you're listening to, you might think you're listening to that cover on Garage Days. So anyway, yeah, I really liked Hardwired. There's like 6 songs off of that album that I enjoy playing guitar, and I think they're going to keep on trying to thrash it up for us since they're getting towards the end of their career. Probably going to go out on a strong note.
Yeah. Just based on what Johan said, I think he's right. I do think that they're trying to please their fan base by saying, "Hey, we get it. We love you guys. Thank you for supporting us. So this is for you guys." That type of a deal. Yeah. I don't disagree with what Johan said. I think everything that they've tried, they've always tried to be genuine, though. Although they tried Saint Anger and a lot of it didn't work. There's songs off of it that I do like. I don't think they've ever tried anything to purposely, outside of Lulu, I don't think that they tried to do something to purposely get a hit, to purposely placate to a certain genre or to a certain thing. I think music was just so different at that time. They saw, their peers going in different directions, and they wanted to kind of put their spin on it. My biggest issue with Saint Anger is I wish they would have waited until Robert was in the band and had him kind of work on some of these songs, because the original album came with a DVD with the 4 members of the band, with Robert included, playing on those tracks, and they sounded a lot better with Robert playing on them as opposed to Bob Rock.
Yeah, I saw them live on that tour, and that was a great tour. And
right,
as you said, the song was a lot better, but with Robert and all together, it was live. It was a genuine album, but on the record, it was experimental.
I think a lot of it feeds into if you see the Some Kind of Monster documentary, they talk about the fact that Load and Reload should have never been released. Like, they should have condensed it into one album, because they had all these songs and they figured, oh, we're Metallica, we can't do any wrong. So they figured that in the studio they could fix some of these songs so that they would be good enough. But I think that it wasn't the case. They had 10 good hard rock songs, but they decided to put out 20 songs, and then a lot of them just aren't that good. I think with Saint Anger is kind of the same thing. They were kind of lost. There was a lot of personality issues. They had some good ideas, but for some reason, their problem is they don't have people. It's kind of what's going on with Iron Maiden now. They don't have people that will tell them no. Going regardless what they do, is going to make millions of dollars. So if you work for them, are you going to be the guy to say no and make sure that another million doesn't come in, instead of saying, hey, maybe we should sit back, analyze this, and maybe this song isn't that good, or maybe we should, woodshed this a little longer until it's a lot closer to what we're known for than just putting it out. Because I think, like I said, I think that there's 4 or 5 songs on Saint Anger that are good. They sound better live, but the rest of it is kind of, it just kind of doesn't work. The song that they named their charity after, All Within My Hands, as an acoustic song, if you hear them play that, it's a really cool song. But on the album, on Saint Anger, it's just so muddied with the production and with the crappy snare sound and everything that the song just doesn't sound good. So I have my hopes high that that 72 Seasons will be a good album. And if not, I mean, hopefully at least there'll be 5-6 songs that'll be good off of it that will end up in my Metallica playlist.
Yeah.
And will be songs that I play quite often. So I got to check out the Dio documentary earlier this week. Have you guys seen it yet?
No. What's it playing on?
Yeah.
Showtime. Yeah, Showtime is showing it in the States.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Okay.
What did you see? Can we have it here in Europe?
I don't know if it's officially released in Europe. I'm not going to say how I got it. But I do intend on buying the Blu-ray when it comes out. I'll say that. And
playing with your VPN there?
Yeah, kind of. It was better than I expected because I had heard Mark Striegel talk about it or post things online saying that, and we talked about it on this show, that Vivian Campbell didn't get as much credit as he should have. And I was really surprised because they used the recent clip of Vivian saying that, everything we've heard, they promised us money. We didn't get it. I was hurt by this. And then I was fired, So he kind of they didn't sugarcoat it. It was exactly what we've been hearing in the press all these years with his gripes. And Wendy comes out and says, and this makes you kind of think. She said, "Hey, Ronnie didn't see a cent from any of the royalties from Rainbow until like a month before he died." So she was saying, Ronnie went a long time without making money. And she goes on to say, hey, Vivian was 19 when he joined the band. He was able to reach a certain lifestyle because he was in the band. Yes, he wasn't rich, but he was a well-known guitarist. He was living a good, comfortable life. So he kind of was taking for granted some of the perks of working with Ronnie. And yeah, the money wasn't there, but it wasn't as if he was living, a bad life. So let's remember, he's the one that complained that due to not making enough money, that he had to drive around in a cheap Ferrari. A cheap Ferrari when at 20 years old, I was driving a car that had come out 15 years before I had started driving. So I mean, I can't relate to being forced to only drive a cheap Ferrari. So,
well, speaking of Vivian, I was telling you that Last in Line was coming to our town,
right?
And I went with a friend to see that, and really loved the show.
Okay.
That guy, Andrew Freeman,
right,
the vocalist, was awesome. Man, the crowd loved him. He was really nailing it. And of course, that was my first time seeing Vivian live, and I pretty much watched him the whole time, and he nailed every guitar solo effortlessly. He just kind of looks at the crowd and plays those guitar solos like he doesn't even have to think about it, and plays it exactly like you remember it. So it was awesome, to hear songs like The Last in Line and Rainbow in the Dark and Holy Diver live.
Right.
And Carmine was interesting to me.
Vinny.
Or I'm sorry, Vinny. Thanks. I need help these days. I'm watching Vivian and I hear this pounding drum sound, and you would think that you're going to look over and see him pounding away on the drums.
Right.
You don't. He's up there just kind of chilling, doing his
Yeah.
thing, but he's producing a huge sound.
Right.
And I thought that was cool. Yeah, the crowd loved it. It was a great show. So if you get the chance to see it, it's worth the time and money. There's Mr. Dahl.
Yeah. Mr. Dahl is in Vegas. He's there with his wife, so hopefully they're having a great time. Seeing Last in Line, is it kind of bittersweet seeing it though? Thinking, shit, I wish these guys would have given it one last chance with Ronnie. It's a shame that Vivian wasn't able to, kind of sort things out and do like one run with Ronnie before it was all said and done. Because when I got to see them, it was Craig Goldie, and it's night and day. To me, Craig seems like a really nice guy, but to me, I think he's the plainest guitarist that he's had in his band. I mean, if you look at it from Vivian to Doug Aldrich, Tracy G, I thought was a very good guitarist. The one album that Rowan Robertson did was okay. Wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. But I don't know, those Craig Goldie albums, they did 3, 4 of them. His playing is just kind of lackluster to me. I know he's a big Richie Blackmore fan, but the playing just, especially the soloing, just doesn't do anything for me. So I hear some of the Last in Line stuff, and I watch this documentary and I think, shit, it's such a shame that they couldn't have worked something out where they could have given the fans just one last run, but it is what it is at this point. So, what do you think, Ed? Did that show make you think that, hey, I wish that, I could have seen them under other circumstances with Dio, as opposed to, as good as Andrew was, just imagine if it was Ronnie instead of Andrew.
Well, I didn't. I was so happy to be watching Vivian. I didn't have any thoughts like that at the show, but I have thought that before, of course. And I wish Dio, I think, is the greatest heavy metal singer of all time, and I really wish I could have experienced that before.
Yeah. Okay. Johan, how about you? Does seeing? I mean, I don't know. Have you heard any of the Last in Line material? Have you enjoyed it if you've listened to it, or you never got a chance to check it out?
I've heard it a couple of years ago through Talking Metal. I haven't given it a lot of time to listen, to be honest. So no, I have seen Dio though a lot of times, but not Lost in Line. I have never seen Vivian Campbell with Dio.
Okay,
that would have been nice.
Who have you seen in? What guitarist was in the band when you've seen Dio?
First time I saw them was 1987 in Gothenburg. It was Craig Goldie. He was new in the band.
Right.
And then I saw them at my hometown when I met Dio. I've told you this before, but I think it was Tracy G. Was a guitarist. I seen him at Sweden Rock, and it was Craig Goldie. So it was, I guess, those two guys. I'm not sure 100%, but I think it was Craig Goldie and Tracy G. I have seen with Dio.
Okay. Yeah, and he ended up getting fired after the first go around with Dio. At one point, he brought in Warren DeMartini of Rat to play.
Question there about Tracy G. Is he famous for something that I missed?
Yeah, so Tracy was in a band called World War III, which had Vinny Appice and it had Jimmy Bain. And the lead singer was Mandy Lyon. And what ended up happening was when Dio got back together again after the Black Sabbath Dehumanizer album, Vinny suggested that they bring Tracy into the band because he had been playing with him on the World War III album. So that's the connection there. That's how Tracy got into the band. He was never a really big known player. His biggest thing was being in Dio.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So with Warren DeMartini, I remember hearing that that Warren couldn't pull the solos off. And Warren was kind of trying to do his own spin on the solos. And Dio didn't like what he was doing. So he ended up firing him before they even got to play a show. Warren went on to play with Whitesnake after that, which is interesting because that's what happened with Vivian. Vivian went from Dio to Whitesnake as well, but he was only in Whitesnake, I think, for like a tour or something like that. It was very, very short lived. So Brad is saying the first World War III album was awesomely hilarious. Music great. Yeah, Mandy Lyon's voice is something that's an acquired taste, I would think, because his voice is closer to death metal vocals. It's a guttural sound, but he sings hard rock music. So it's kind of an odd fit. All right, so there was another thing that took place this week with Jane Andrews, the manager for Judas Priest, said that KK Downing kind of looked out of place at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that he seemed like that he was very nervous or that he didn't fit in and that he didn't approach the band to thank them for being there or anything like that. It seemed to me that those comments are kind of out of place. And it kind of sucks that the band members themselves, obviously Glenn Tipton, who's married to her, isn't going to say anything. But it's a shame that Ian Hill or Rob Halford or even Scott Travis haven't come out and said, no, we got on well with KK. Because I think the clips that I've seen, I haven't seen the special, but the clips that I've seen, he was up there, on stage, moving back and forth with Richie. He got over close to Halford and was like moving around with him. And I thought KK looked great. I don't think he looked out of place at all. Do you guys think that that he looked out of place? Ed, did you get to see the Priest footage at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No, but I'm very interested to watch it now. I didn't know about this until today. I agree. Those comments are getting a bit too personal, probably, for him to be, talking about that with others. But I'm interested to see. I'll watch it later.
Yeah. Johan, did you get to see any of the footage with KK up there with the rest of Priest?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I mean, to me, it looked like he's never been gone.
Yes, me too.
Totally natural to see KK.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, he was like in the band again.
Yeah.
It's a shame that he... I mean, why can't they just put him on another tour? Who cares? It will be good.
Yeah, well,
together with Richie, of course.
Pride is a bad thing.
Yeah. Sure, it's it is.
He said a bunch of things. Obviously, when people are trying to sell books, a lot of times they're not even writing the book. It's somebody else writing for them, and they're trying to get a certain comment to sell a book. So I don't know. It's a shame. Let's see. So Metal Dan here saying 20 years ago had an email exchange with Jane regarding meet and greet with Priest. or a fan club, and she shot me down. So I thought, well, you suck. Dan, my exchange, I've had 2 exchanges with her. The end result was having their publicist call me an asshole and say that I would never interview any of his bands ever again. And it was funny because I was in Madrid at the time trying to get my oldest son's dual citizenship. And the last thing on my mind was playing podcaster. And I thought, you know what? Fuck it. If I never get to talk to Priest or any of his bands, so be it. My son's my priority right now, and I kind of don't care. So yeah, it was just a weird whole circumstance. I think I've mentioned it before, and if I remember for next week's Patreon podcast, I'll explain it again. What band do you guys think will be the next metal band that will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? We finally got Priest. Do you guys think we'll see Iron Maiden or Motorhead, or do you think they'll jump right over them and look for a Motley Crue or even Pantera now that they've gotten back together again? Because I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the biggest clickbait purveyors of clickbait on the internet, because most of the stuff that they do is to stir shit up. Mm-hmm. Getting KK back together with Priest. I could see these fuckers inducting Pantera into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with not only the Abbott brothers, but with Zach and with Charlie, just to stir shit up. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think will be the next band that will get next to will possibly get inducted next year? Johan, who do you think? Not who you want to go in, but who do you think they'll put in?
First of all, that's a very American thing,
right?
And I feel a little bit far away from it.
Okay,
but yeah, it's not a big thing here at all. But I'm hoping for Maiden aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No, then I'm hoping for them, of course. Okay. That would be a good thing. Is AC/DC in?
Oh yeah. AC/DC went in a long time ago. Yeah.
Okay.
AC/DC, Metallica, Black Sabbath, Kiss. Trying to think what other remotely hard rock or metal bands are in there. There isn't a lot.
Well, then it's time for Maiden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ed, what do you think?
I would hope it would be Maiden or Motorhead. Probably more likely Maiden. I don't think they'd know what to do with Motorhead. As cool as it would be, to go to the Hall of Fame and look at the stuff that's there, especially if you love rock music and the history of rock music. I have no love and respect for the people that run that show. I mean, they're all a big joke, it seems. And, whatever they do, I'm sure it will cause me some anger. Have me clicking on the on those stories, like you just said.
Right.
Have me commenting away in anger.
Yeah, Brad is saying, "Don't blame America for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame."
Who's to blame?
Yeah, who's to blame? The idiots from Rolling Stone magazine, who were the epitome of, again, clickbait and gatekeeping. Brad is saying should be Maiden, probably won't be. Okay, so here we go.
Maybe
so
Scorpions?
What's that?
Scorpions? That might be more up their alley.
Could be.
Not too scary for them.
Yeah. So, all right. So here we go. So Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Kiss, Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Foo Fighters, Nirvana, Aerosmith, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nine Inch Nails, Leonard Skinner, Journey, Cheap Trick, The Doors, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Rush. Bon Jovi's in there already? I didn't think they were. Ramones, ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin, and Joan Jett. So those are like the closest things to hard rock and metal that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot. If we go, for example, to let's see, Ultimate Classic Rock magazine has an article called Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Metal Snubs. So omissions that of bands that aren't in there. So they list Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne as a solo artist, Dio, Motley Crue, Motorhead, Slayer, Megadeth, Pantera, Scorpions, Anthrax. So to them, those are the bands that are overlooked that should be in there. Me personally, I can't really argue for any of them to not be in there because I think that they were important. Each one of those bands was important for a different reason to help hard rock and metal evolve. So I think they should be in there. But I mean, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bands. So that means I will almost be in my 60s before the majority of these bands will even be close to getting in there. So it's a shame. Any of those bands that either one of you think shouldn't be in there? Ed, any of those you think shouldn't be in there?
No, but it does bother me though when newer bands are getting in ahead of other bands that
I agree.
Influenced and but I know it's I get a bad attitude over that.
Yeah, I remember when Nirvana got in. Courtney Love actually said that unless they inducted AC/DC and Kiss, that she was going to have them remove all the Nirvana memorabilia because she said, these bands influenced Nirvana. Without them, you don't get Nirvana. And as whacked out as she is, she kind of made sense. She was saying, hey, you should actually go in order. These bands influence these bands. If you want to get Metallica in there, then you should have the bands that influence Metallica in there first. And then go from there. So I
Metal horn for her saying that.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. Johan, any of these bands you were kind of agreeing while I was reading them, and any of these bands that you think aren't important and shouldn't be there?
No, of course not.
Yeah. There's one big band that hasn't been named.
Mm-hmm.
That surprises me. Thin Lizzy.
Wow.
Thin Lizzy should be in there because you look at Maiden, you look at Priest, a lot of that dueling guitar, I get it. Allman Brothers did it. Leonard Skinner did it. But they didn't quite do it the way that Thin Lizzy did it. Just with the melodies and the interplay between the guitars. I think that they're a band that was omitted that should be in there as well. So,
but Thin Lizzy, were they big in America?
That's the problem. Thin Lizzy has 2 big songs in America, and that's it. Maybe 3. Okay. So it's completely different. That's the problem. Is that a lot of it goes by popularity because you have the Foo Fighters in there already, and no disrespect to them, because there's music of theirs that I absolutely love. But I don't think the Foo Fighters should be in there before a lot of these bands that I just mentioned. I get it. They became popular later, became very important later. but did they actually have the same impact? I don't, I don't.
Foo Fighters is a band. Foo Fighters is a rock band for those who are not interested in rock. It's like very easy. I mean, I agree with you, Victor. They have done some good songs and so, but it's rock for people who aren't into rock.
Right. I think that they've put out 2 great albums. I think they've put out 1 really good album, and everything else is kind of hit or miss for me. I think The Color and the Shape is a very good album. I think that's one of the best rock albums that came out in the 90s. I think Wasting Light, which at this point came out 10, 15 years ago, was a great album. I think the first album was very good. But I think in between those 3, you've got some really good songs in there. But there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't speak to me. Everything that they've put out after Wasting Light, I felt disappointed with, because it seemed like they finally got back on top of the Wasting Light, and they haven't been able to kind of replicate what they did on that album. I don't know, just my opinion, but
Agree.
yeah. We'll see what they do now. But anything else you guys want to discuss before we wrap things up here?
No.
Okay, Ed, anything you want to mention?
Well, I could go on about different things. I got new books and new music and all of that stuff, but I'll keep you on here for another hour, so maybe next time.
All right, so let's do this. Give us a recommendation for a book that you have, and give us a recommendation for some of the new music that you've been checking out.
Right now?
Yeah, why not?
Well, half price books. I tell you, I go in there and buy used books.
Okay.
And you told me to read the Lemmy book.
Right.
I got the one by Mick Wall. Is that the one that you said was good?
The one that I have is called White Line Fever. It's his autobiography.
Okay, so I need to look for that one.
Yeah. That one.
Mick Wall, I like him though.
Mick Wall.
I got one that he did on Black Sabbath. That's really good.
Yeah, Mick Wall. He's done several podcasts, and then he just stops abruptly. I don't know if it's because his schedule or because he doesn't get along well with his co-hosts, where he just ends up wearing out his welcome type of a deal.
Yeah.
But he did a podcast called Dead Rock Stars, which was phenomenal, because he would tell all these stories about touring with bands and different things. And he did the Dio documentary, or the Dio biography, excuse me. He did a one episode talking about how his first big job was doing PR for Black Sabbath on the Heaven and Hell tour. And this episode was on John Bonham. And he talked about how Bonham and Zeppelin would really look down upon Black Sabbath and really like fuck with Sabbath. Like, they knew that Sabbath was like, especially he tells this story about Bill Ward, how Bill Ward was just out of his mind drunk all the time. And how John Bonham would come in and would just like drink twice as much as him. How he would like, where he would say, hey, did you catch the show? And John would be like, yeah, I saw about 5 minutes of that rubbish you were playing and whatever. And he was just fucking with Bill, and between Bill being drunk and just out of it, like he would become like insanely like insecure. So he would tell these stories, and to top it off, he would tell them in like using their various accents and stuff. So it's like just very colorful, like storytelling. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Also, I told you I read this AC/DC book, Maximum Rock and Roll. I think that's one of the best books that I've ever read. But I
Okay.
did find another book I'm excited to read.
Okay.
Vaughn, The Last Highway.
Yeah, by Jesse Fink. I interviewed Jesse when he put that out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very excited to read this. But the one everybody here are probably most interested in.
Okay.
I'm trying to get in the camera right. Nothing But a Good Time. And it's all about the 80s hard rock explosion.
Okay.
And are you familiar with the book on heavy metal called Louder Than Hell? Have you read that one?
I haven't read it just because I'm a real shitty reader, but I've heard of the book, and I've seen the one that that you have. Somebody posted about it this week on social media. I don't remember who.
Okay. Well, I saw that one of the co-authors of Louder Than Hell, which is an awesome book, recommends this book on the back cover.
Okay.
So, and the guy that checked me out said he read it and it was really good. Anyway, that should have a lot of good stories to tell.
Cool.
And then on the music side, I don't know, you might not have a single listener that knows what I'm talking about here. This is Living Sacrifice this is a genuinely good Christian extreme metal band.
Okay.
And they go back to the early 90s. They started off as a thrash metal band. On their second album, which is this one I just showed you, they went to death metal. They did that for a couple of years, but the death metal vocals are different on both of those records. And then that vocalist left, and they became more of a kind of a groove metal band with metalcore vocals, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And they're awesome. They have one of the best drummers around. But anyway, when they did this record here, their first death metal record, the label, Rex Records, gave them a producer that knew nothing about metal at all. And he kind of ruined the record. The songs are tremendously good, but the production was pretty bad.
Right.
And so they recently gave someone the tapes to remix and remaster this, and it sounds freaking awesome. So any death metal heads that, especially if you're familiar with Living Sacrifice, your money will be well worth spent buying this. So there's one tip for you.
Yeah. So I know the name, but I don't recall ever hearing anything from them. I'll have to search it out. Brad is saying the new Sword album is a really good listen. I really enjoyed speaking to Rick from Sword. And his last comment here is, does death metal lead to resurrection metal? I don't know. Good question.
I'll contemplate that this week and get back to you.
Johan, quick question. Behind you, that's the outdoors right now in Sweden?
Yeah.
Is there light from the sun out, or is that just the light reflecting off of the clouds and the snow?
No, it's the light from a Christmas tree outside.
Okay. Because the sky looks white.
Yeah, it's white outside. It's snow. We have a bicycle street a couple of meters behind our garden, so it's the lights from that. But then we have the Christmas tree outside.
Yeah. Okay.
We all have that in Sweden.
Yeah. It's here every year. There's a little bit more and more of that. It's seen as a very American thing here. So you have people that resist it, and you have other people that have come from other parts. It's funny because you can tell where people that are South American, for example, or people that have lived in the US, where they are here, especially because after Thanksgiving, that Friday, which is customary in the US to put up all the ornaments and all that, they do it here. So usually the Spanish do it this week. So actually my kids, since we have no basketball tomorrow, that's when they're going to be doing it. So we'll see how that goes. Last year was the first time they did it all by themselves, so we'll see if that trend continues. So, anyway, I do want to thank Ed and Johan for coming on. As always, it is great to talk to the two of you about music. To anyone that is a music lover that wants to talk to just a great group of people that love talking about hard rock and metal, join us in Patreon. Join us on Fridays for these discussions. And I'm thinking about various ideas for the show next week, which will be the last show of the year. And then we'll come right back on January 6th with our 2022 album countdown. So it gives us enough time to catch up and see if we missed any album that we still need to listen to.
That
so
list is important. Yeah.
So Johan, Ed, thank you very much for being here. Thank you,
Victor.
Brad. Thanks to Brad and Dan for being in the chat. Anyone else that was here that didn't shout out to us in the chat, and anyone that's watching or listening to the replay, thank you for spending your time with us. And on that note, we will end the show. We will see you all on Tuesday. If not, we'll see you next Friday for the final Signals from Mars for this year. See you, folks.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.